Sure, people be wondering why I'm kind of jumping back and forth here between kind of like issues. Like the whole stuff regarding me ex, there's a lot of kind of sexual slander spread around, and it was put together by a psychologist in Tuskegee. And as you could imagine, you can put two and two together who spread this basically. And what happened then, there's other organisations within Waterford that use this to try to clean their own image. When I started calling this out for, there was some of the girls regarding that charity up above there in Waterford Children's Group, and they came to me and they kind of confided information about some of the stuff that was going on up there. And even though we all know what was going on up there for 20 years, like, it was left be covered up. Also, another one of the brothers, being honest with you, he interfered with my mother's funeral. And I'll get to all of this and I'll explain how this all kind of like comes together. But as I said, regarding that whole kind of children's group link charity up there and what went on, now called the Mary Halligan Foundation. Like, I refuse to call that the Mary Halligan Foundation, and I'm going to tell you why I refuse to call that the Mary Halligan Foundation. As I said, people came to me and I have certain information. They know of this information, right? Miss Halligan should be made clarify when it was first brought to her attention of the actions of a certain person, that she was aware of this on multiple occasions. This was reported, but I'm on about the very first time that this was reported, even though all the other times I know she didn't follow protocol. She needs to clarify when was the first time that somebody came to her about the situation that had gone on up there, basically. And there's a strict code of ethics and protocol she was to follow. Number one, she was to report it to Gardaí because it's a criminal matter, basically. And number two, because of the high risk of conflict of interest, she should have backed out of it. Now, like, these are questions that are they're not difficult to answer. Do you know what I mean? They're only difficult to answer if you have something to hide, basically. And someone else should be pushing this, you're right? Because, like, as they'll tell you, like, I have a criminal record and all this, and I don't have an education. Like, that's fair enough. But someone has to ask these questions. Do you know what I mean? So before it's called the Mary Halligan Foundation, I think Miss Halligan now should be kind of like once and for all made clarify on what dates she first kind of reported the issues of what was going on up there. And I'll provide documentation then, but I can't provide it yet because they'll just basically try and match my documentation. But I will provide documentation if she provides documentation, and like, that's pretty fair enough. Miss Halligan was one of the first persons that this was reported to. Even though there was multiple occasions where she was actually privy on several occasions to what was going on in there, if not all of them actually. So she should be made clarify what protocol she followed, just to show that she's kind of like, that she followed the correct code of ethics. Before you go naming the charity after the woman, do you know what I mean? You should like make sure that she followed the correct code of ethics. Like, there was multiple acts of grooming that went on up there for fucking years, no word of a lie. And it was all kind of covered up. And actually, the girls who had the courage to report it, they were almost treated like they'd done something wrong. I was working up there as a builder, myself and two of my mates, and we actually witnessed this going on there. And actually, she was there watching this with another kind of female person, who I won't name. Well, she was there watching this and they were rolling their eyes. The whole kind of outlook, gosh, sure, he's at it again. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's the whole kind of approach of this. Do you know what I mean? You had a grown man running around tickling a 14-year-old girl, like, chasing her around and bringing her off in vans. I've explained all this in videos, and this is why some of the girls then came to me, because they knew what I was at to been saying was virtually the same as the stuff that they went through. So they came and confided stuff in me. And I'm not gonna go in too far into the stuff they confided in me. But those up in Children's Group Link, they know that I have certain information. And as I'm just saying, like, she should just clarify what dates she reported it and what measures was taken. And then I'll provide documentation and we'll see do they match up. As I said, she should have reported this to the Gardaí because it's a criminal matter, and she should have backed out of the situation over the high risk of conflict of interest. Do you know what I mean? And the person, the accused, he was actually promoted after. Would you believe that? They promoted him after. That's no word of a lie. That's how bad the cronyism up after this. And not too long ago, they were actually going to try and put the person into politics. Now you break that down, even before all my stuff, the situation, right? And there was no one cleared, there was no one found not guilty, like, and as I said, there's multiple cases, right? So they know all this, so they know very well what he's had to been doing, right? And they were going to kind of put him into politics, even knowing what he's after doing. They were going to put him into politics, do you know what I mean? And they promoted him. That shows you the disdain from this group that they have for people, do you know what I mean? Like, and the contempt, and they think that they can fucking like pull the strings all over the place. It was another smoke screen, do you know what I mean? Trying to hide the actions of this person, just like the whole calling the kind of children group link Mary Halligan Foundation. That again is another smoke screen to try and kind of clean the image of the place. Like, everyone in Waterford knows what went on up there, and it went on for how long it did. And these people were treated like they done something wrong. Do you know what I mean? Some of them were like bullied to the extent, like, some of them were manipulated, kind of told that they stayed quiet, that they be given jobs and all this kind of stuff, and they kind of did, and kind of they were kind of young and naive, so they kind of did, but they were bullied out of the place by a certain person running the place, getting lauded and applauded now. Like, you have the Gardaí, right? They went through all the cases, all the individual cases. They went through them, right? Broken down into individual cases. It should have been a group kind of action brought against criminal action. That's what would have been done, because they all would have supported each other's kind of story, and it would have been left up to the judge. Okay, but they broke it down into individual cases, tried to say there was no evidence. So who's going to have like evidence for historic sex crimes? Do you know what I mean? Like, realistically, who's going to have that? Nobody else was asked for evidence for another case. Do you know what I mean? So when you think about it, so this is what they done. And the one case that they have brought, right? If he's found guilty, right, of that, it would have corroborated all the other allegations from the other people. Do you know what I mean? This is why they got rid of them cases. And if he's found not guilty, the guards will turn around then and say, "Shall we looked into it?" And just, do you know what I mean? They'll wash their hands of it, because by like bringing him to court and him being found not guilty, then it actually clears the Gardaí from what they're after been getting up to cover the whole shit up. So kind of it suits the Gardaí to bring one shitty case, when they could have brought all the cases as a group. But had they brought all the cases as a group, do you know what I mean? The judge would have heard all the evidence from all the girls, and he would have been kind of found guilty, I'd imagine. And a lot of this has to do with kind of the network of Sinn Féin. It's not Sinn Féin, as I said. David Conlan is up to his neck in this, because he's kind of cronyism with John Halligan, if I'm being honest with you. And they'll tell you that Mr. John Halligan, like, voice of the people, this is where it'll be pushed that as a minister he done so much for Waterford. Do you know what I mean? Unless the voices are the victims that suffered at the hands of his family, they don't have a voice. They've been suppressed, they've been bullied, they've been intimidated. So let's call a spade a spade, do you know what I mean? Like, and I'm going to start uploading my own videos, and all of this, believe it or not, will all end up connected onto my own stuff, because my ex tried to hide behind various groups, and they had it in their interest to try and hide their own behaviour, and use this as a kind of springboard, yet again another springboard that they used to try and hide their own actions. Except not everyone can be bullied, and I'm sure people can see the kind of clarity in what I'm after saying and question what's after been done. And what I've said, anything I've said in any of my videos is 100% true. And as I said, I take a polygraph, and if they provide documentation, or if they want to go to the guards, I don't have an issue with that. Do you know what I mean? They provide documentation and proof, and then I'll provide afterwards documentation and proof, and we'll see if they match up. So I'm going to write to the Minister of Justice. I'm going to write an open letter, and I'm going to ask the Minister of Justice, is the Halligan family, are they above the law? Because they're clearly being treated a certain kind of way within Waterford. So I'm going to ask on behalf of the people of Waterford, are they above the law? As simple as that. And if I don't get any good out of that, there's evidence there of Ray Halligan trying to pass a threat through me to some one of the videos. And if needs be, I'm going to walk into the court and I'm going to hand it to the judge if needs be. Now, I'll probably get in trouble over this, I've no doubt. But it's for the greater good, as they say. And I'll explain that to the judge, and he can like view it himself. And he can view the breach of bail conditions. And he can question why Waterford Gardaí are withholding evidence from the judge. Because that's what's going on. Like, how do you expect the judge to find a correct judgment in any case when the evidence is being suppressed from him? Yeah, so I'll leave it there now, and I'll be back in touch.